A lot of people wonder what is going on behind the scenes between the time a buyer and seller sign an agreement of sale for a home and closing. And that period of time tends to be typically 5 to 6 weeks. So people say, well, what's happening all that time? Well, one thing that takes the longest is on the mortgage side. It takes them a while to request all the appropriate documents they need in order to make sure that everything that they assumed or everything you told them verbally is accurate. And then they will have a whole second set of questions specific to you and if you're self-employed or all kinds of other things that pertain to whether you do indeed qualify for the mortgage and exactly what the rate will be and if there's any discount points and all of that. So a big part of it is that the mortgage documentation process just takes a long time. But aside from that, there are other things happening. So the first thing that happens is when you're a buyer, you need to submit that executed agreement of sale to your lender and officially apply for the mortgage. So that's the first thing you do. Then you're going to have to send in your first deposit. And I say first because if you are having inspections done, there is usually a first deposit once you sign the agreement of sale, and then a second deposit that is due upon the negotiations being complete on inspections. So inspections, you have to schedule them. They need to happen. You'll receive the reports, and then you'll go over them with your agent. And if you are going to go back to the seller and negotiate anything, that's also happening during this time period. You'll also have to make sure that there is a title company who's going to be doing a title search, which ensures that the title is clear with no clouds on it, meaning that there are no other liens on the title or anybody else saying that they actually own the property or it's supposed to go to them. So the title company takes care of that. They're also getting tax certifications, sewer certifications, and potentially other things to make sure that taxes and bills have been paid so that when they go to closing, everybody is paid and there's not somebody who's waiting for money and the seller then says, oh, well, I'm skipping out on it or whatever. So they have to figure out all of those things and have to apply for certifications from those different bodies. The lender will order an appraisal for the property, and once the appraiser comes in and does his appraisal, if the appraised value is lower than what the agreed to price was, there may, depending on the terms of your contract, be another negotiation and maybe a decision about whether you're staying in the transaction. So that also is happening at that period of time. Another thing that's taking place that is sort of a seller side thing is, in most places, the use and occupancy certificate. That's where the township wants to make sure there are smoke detectors, that there are numbers that identify your house that are legible if there's an emergency and something they need to get to you. But they also look at things like cracked sidewalk blocks for tripping hazards. Where we live in Pennsylvania and on the main line and most areas here, that's a seller's responsibility to repair before closing if the township requires it. So that's more of a seller side issue, but that's going on as well behind the scenes. Buyers need to be shopping for homeowners insurance, which will be required by the lender to be in place the day of closing. Both buyer and seller are going to be preparing for moving as well, calling moving companies, getting things packed up. And both buyer and seller also need to make sure they contact the utility services to transfer utilities in or out of their names so that there's no interruption in service, but so that somebody doesn't get charged more than they should after they've left. So there's a lot that is going on between the time that the agreement of sale is signed and settlement.